Hey ladies and gents, it's Zen back. We are talking armor and shields. Protecting your ship from the big baddies in the universe. Hey, happy holidays to you guys. I just got back on this last weekend from my folks all Christmas, so sorry I haven't seen any videos or much replies from me. I'm typically, if I'm away from the house, my wife has a no fucking on your phone thing, so yeah, sorry about not getting back to everybody right away. I'm kind of one of those things. So yeah, happy holidays to everybody, and a happy new year. I'm hopefully to have one at New Year's, so we'll talk about that when that happens. Let's talk about armor and shields. Early game, mid game, whatever, you're going to rely on a couple different things. The first thing you're going to do for protecting your ship when you first start the game, of course, is going to be armor. Is your first available thing that'll keep your ship from exploding. Now, when I'm talking about armor is only relevant in this game until railguns, okay? And specifically, once you get closer to the center of the galaxy, or even into the center of the galaxy, armor becomes kind of one of those things. It's like, do you want it? Do you need it? What good is it going to do? Because I'll be honest, like if you do on the insane level, you're going to run into ships with 250,000 Omicron. A lot of times it's electrical weapons, so it's easier, they'll work on the shield and stuff. However, with 250,000 Omicron, it's going to take, no matter how big a chunk of armor you have on there, with that much firepower and HP being taken off every hit, armor kind of becomes irrelevant. Yeah, for protection. I mean, early game, mid game, the lower end of the difficulty levels, armor works wonderful. Fine, great. However, once you get to the center or close to the center of the galaxy, armor becomes irrelevant because it's just you're dealing with ships that are quite powerful. You're dealing with torpedoes that are quite powerful. I mean, you're talking about torpedoes that do 250,000 damage in one hit. So yeah, to armor your ship to stop that, you're going to have to put enormous chunks of armor on your ship, which is going to affect your maneuverability, your speed, and everything else. So, yeah, if you're playing the lower end difficulties, fine. If you're staying outside the edges of the center of the galaxy, you're usually all right too. So once you get to the center of the galaxy, where armor becomes kind of still questionable. It's still nice to have on some of your ship, and I'll show you what I talk about. So armor in general, you're going to get that right off the bat in iron. This is of course iron armor, and we're going to do here, and I'll show you what armor, for what it is roughly 4 times the HP of the blank hull. So here's here's iron hull, so we're looking at 365, so about 28,000 HP in that chunk of hull. We replace that with a chunk of iron armor, and you're looking at 105,000. Same amount of material, just that much denser. So yeah, it does have 4 times the HP in the same amount of area as a regular hull piece. However, this piece of chunk of armor is 66% heavier. So that's kind of the things when it comes to balancing with armor, is that you're going to have these. To use the armor, you're gonna have to sacrifice some maneuverability and mobility in general, because armor weighs quite a bit. So yeah, that's your armor. Armor, like I said, for the most part, early game, outside the barrier, works fine. Works against most everything. It's only when you start getting to the center when you get the high HP cannons and railguns by themselves. So if you're really playing on a PvP server, railguns really don't give a shit about armor. I don't care what anybody says. Well, it stops the penetration. It doesn't really matter, because once again, it comes down to an HP game, right? So if you have a railgun that's firing 350,000 HP in one shot, no matter how thick that armor is, it's still going to it just becomes a downhill HP game. So if you have a piece that's 250,000, you hit it with the 350,000 HP, guess what? It's gonna blow off. So armor, like I said, use it wisely if you're going to use it. Once you get to the center of the galaxy, you might want to start changing a little bit of that idea. You might want to start more working toward, and we'll talk about here, in shields. The other thing you can do with armor and blocks in general, of course, is use a field integrity field generator. Now what this does is creates a field around blocks. There's an equation for how far it'll extend around a block and all that kind of stuff. Field integrity generators makes blocks 20% more durable, and it also takes the less damage, so you're less likely to lose the block because it takes the damage and spreads it over the whole HP of the ship instead of just the block. So by putting it on there, you'll see it turns purple. So that block is protected by an integrity field generator. Makes it more durable, and it, like I said, it splits the damage between HP and HP of the block. Definitely helpful when you're doing stuff like that. So integrity field generators, armor, pretty simple stuff. Some stuff to remember, like I said, when you're doing this stuff, you're going to be constantly changing your ship as you work. Like some of my other designs on my ships and stuff that if you've downloaded them, they work for what they were. They're really not best designs. They just work for what I was doing at the time. And you're going to see that as you work your way through the galaxy. You're going to have to constantly be changing your ship up or building new ships to match what you're running into. So, if you have a ship that you have heavily armored, get to the inside of the barrier, you're like, wow, do I have all this heavy armor? And it's really kind of slowing my ship down. You might have to, flip it around. Now, there's one other thing you can use, which of course is rock. Rock is, you'll find it in every single, right here you'll see iron rich, super rich rock, naonite, Xanian. What rock or stone, I guess, in this game is it still has, it's got a high HP, high amount of, I should say high HP. It's heavy, just like armor. It's heavy, but there's a cited advantage to rock or stone is that it's impervious to electrical weapons. Like Tesla coils and all that kind of Tesla guns and all that kind of stuff. Lightning guns does nothing to that the stone. And we're gonna. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. We're gonna bring up a save design. This guy right here. Okay, so this is a specialty design ship for a specific fight that I will show later on when we move through the game. But this ship is essentially encased in stone. The thrusters, everything in this ship is encased in stone, so you cannot see. There's no viable block around here that's not encased in a rock or a stone specifically. They're rather thin sheets, but they're still, like I said, encased into the stone. What we're going to do here is so that's only got a whopping 42.4K hull, HP. We have on this ship, we don't want that. We want, I'm going to show you the guns here, what I'm talking about. This is not a plasma turret. Why do we have plasma on there? We want a Tesla. Where's our Teslas at? There's a Tesla turret right there. That is a 10,689 damage Tesla turret. Now, Tesla Lightning are considered electrical weapons in the game, and you'll run into a lot of the Zotan, like the energy weapons, like the electrical weapons, the Teslas, and the Lightning weapons. So it's something to remember when you're building your ships. Hey, maybe if you want to put a little coating of stone over some parts that might be pretty, like engines, or it's possible. It's something that you have to think about here. So we're going to mount this on this ship to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So Tesla coil, and we'll put it at 3. So let's jump back out here, and we're going to turn off those two. We're going to turn off 5 and 6. And what do we got? Yep, there's the Tesla. So that's putting out 10,000 HP of damage. Now, since this is, of course, made out of rock, you can see it does absolutely nothing to the rock. Like I said, this is 10,000 HP damage. Tesla turret, does nothing to the rock. Absolutely all. That's a 42,000, so it should have been easily destroyed within a matter of a couple seconds with that much HP for damage. However, since it's made out of stone, doesn't bother it at all. Pretty simple, right, guys? Real simple. Okay, so remember, stone, pervious, all that kind of stuff. Now we are talking shields. Shields in general, and we're going to jump into this one here. This has a shield of 88,000 or 882,000 for its shields. It actually has 2 million shields. I am running a certain system on here that makes the shields impervious to everything shot at it. Shields in general are pretty easy. You'll start getting them in the Neonite region, and this is what even on the other video that I did about early game, getting the Neonite regions right away by adding a Neonite. Whoops, not the Neonite generator. Shield generator. So once you get the Neonite, you're going to get the shields, and you just start popping them up just like every other block. And you can see as soon as you pop it on, you'll start seeing my shields start going up. Real simple. They are, you can put them anywhere on your ship, put them inside the ship, outside the ship, whatever. But yeah, putting those on, of course, will create this bubble around your ship that weapons have to get through first before it hits your ship. You're going to rely more on the shields and stuff, and I'll be honest, shields and speed when you get to the center of the galaxy, because once again, you can't counter the speed of your ship, and the shields are rebuildable. However, once you get through that kind of stuff and you start getting your ship started getting shot up and hit with all kinds of weapons, and you start blowing off blocks and blah blah blah, you're going to realize what I'm talking about here. This ship has almost no armor. In fact, I think it has no armor on it at all. It is only made out of just plain, regular, everyday thrusters and regular blocks. Yeah, it has no armor on it. It relies on the fact that it can move at ridiculous speeds. We're talking 3,600 meters without the boost on, 20,000 meters with. So speed, like I said, once again comes down to, and that's because I have the systems and stuff on here that makes it so fast. But with this thing, I never have to worry about getting into a fight. I mean, I've killed the Center Galaxy Guardian with insane with this thing, just because of its speed, relying nothing on armor. Not relying on armor, just relying on the shields and the ability that I pick my fights and move on. So this is, like I said, what I'm talking about when you get to the center of a galaxy. Shields and speed are your friends. Armor, not so much. Now, you can build ships that... we're going to look at one here quick here. I took it apart, disassembled it. Here we go. This is one of my regular ships you see quite often in the game, and I've taken it apart to kind of give you an idea what I'm talking about here. So this centerpiece in here is filled up with shield generators, all kinds of stuff that I need, obviously, and it's protected by a large piece of trinium armor above and below. There's trinium armor, edge armor on both sides of this, even on the top up here. Yeah, so these trinium edge armor is there for a reason, right? This stuff needs to be protected as much as possible. These are the shield generators, energy generators, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do use some armor, but for the most part, if it's just, say, like a cargo area, or for example, this is a computer core down here. These are computer cores. Once again, this was a really early game ship. Crew quarters, like that stuff, I don't necessarily use. I'll use, for example, the corner, or just plain simple block to cover it. Yeah, right here. There's a cargo bay that just sticks out. There's thrusters I use. There's some just plain trinium edge. But yeah, I don't necessarily cover the non-essential pieces in armor. I would prefer to use something that's a lot lighter over something that I don't really necessarily need. Now, if it's something important like, say, generators, shield generators, that kind of stuff, you don't want that stuff fucked up as easy. So yeah, I'll put a little bit more armor. I'll put armor on top of it. Other things like cargo holds, crew quarters, that kind of stuff, if it gets blown off, it gets blown off. I'll just replace it later or when I get a chance. For the most part, though, I try to stay away from not armoring stuff that doesn't need to be protected. And once again, even this big chunk of armor right here, you're talking 175,000 for the collision damage reduction. So you know it's a fair-sized chunk of armor, but with the weapons in the game, it's only going to take one or two hits from some weapons before it blows off. However, by that time, luckily enough, I'll probably be moving or getting away, and I'm not going to have to, hopefully be gone before I have to replace it. But it's going to protect that vital area of my ship long enough, hopefully, to either blow up what I'm shooting at or get away. Just something I was going to show you with the actual layout of a ship here. You can see how I built it over. And the most of the ship, like this ship here, I fly it quite a bit in the game. It's not the best designed ship, and if you've downloaded, by all means, take it apart, change it, whatever you want to do. I like the look of the ship. However, when I was building it, I just kept adding things as I went, and it was used for what I was at the time using, or what I was trying to do. I wasn't, there's a lot of flaws in the ship. So by all means, if you download it, change it up here. However, shields are not completely 100% proof. You do require a certain system to make them work. Alright, so let's talk. Oh, there he is right there. Nope, he's right there. There's the Durandal. That's the ship I've played so much in this game. There is a couple different weapon systems that go through shields, and you'll notice that here when we are looking at every weapon sometimes have bonuses. For example, the Tesla coil has a bonus for against shields. Electrical weapons work really well against shields. It helps them taken down relatively quick. This one, the double pulse cannon, has a 80% chance of penetrating a shield. So imagine a ship that's loaded with these pretty much makes shields somewhat worthless, because 8 out of 10 shots are going to penetrate the shield. So yeah, there is something to think about when you are working on your ship. That you're gonna see some of that. So we're gonna take a couple swipes here at the Durandal with this gun. And you can see at 14.45, and you're going to see that it's going to start slowly. Yep, see the blue numbers are the blocked ones, the white numbers are the actual penetrations. So you'll see the hull number down here start to drop, because it's penetrating those shields relatively easy. Well, not relatively easy, as I said, 8 out of 10 shots should penetrate that shield. Now, there is a couple other weapons. You're going to run into this quite often, especially when you get closer to the center of the galaxy, is the torpedoes. And you're going to run into a lot of torpedo-flinging dickheads, specifically pirates or headhunters. So, Durandal is there. We are going to turn on that one. And that one is, and I'll show you what it is. Specifically, you're going to run into these guys right here. These are Sable torpedoes. This one right here does 170,000 damage. It has a speed of 3,500 and a range of 33 kilometers. This is not a necessarily huge one. This is only a rare. I've seen some of these go over 250,000 damage. So there is a possibility you'll run into. That's one torpedo. And these things do not care if you have shields or not. And I'll show you, for example, here we go. So there is Mr. Durandal. We're going to fire a torpedo at that. So that's sitting at 100%. And did I hit him? There we go. Now you see the big damage there, 97.5%. So it knocked off, yeah, roughly 2.5%. So let's drop another one on him. So this torpedo does not care about the shield. It'll just go right through the shields and nail him. So there's another one. So now to 94.8%. So that's something to remember when you even with shields, they are penetrable. You can still go right through them. The other class of torpedo, which is the EMP one. This one right here is an EMP. It'll briefly deactivate shields. You have to remember when you all of a sudden like, why is my shields dropping, or why am I, I'm showing shields, but all of a sudden I'm not showing shields. It's because of these kind of torpedoes. So there's Durandal again. We'll fire another one out, and you'll see on the shield bar that it'll be a little bit of a, see right there, how it dropped. It makes it somewhat impenetrable. You drop a couple more on them, you do a salvo of these, and they'll just, see the bar there? It does wonders. You get enough salvos, it'll knock the shields down, makes it, you can penetrate right into the hull. So something to remember about when you're dealing with ships with shields, EMPs, or the Sabos. The Sabos work great if you're using those kind of deals. Hey, Sabo shells are definitely the way to go, or Sabo torpedoes are the way to go. However, there is a counter to this, and that is called a shield reinforcer. It makes impenetrable shields. Shield durability negative 58%. So when you saw that I had 880,000 shields, it typically, without this shield reinforcer installed, it would be about 2.1 million shields. It also, once it's done, obviously time until redrawn plus 285%. However, it cannot be penetrated. It cannot be penetrated by the plasma gun, or the plasma gun that I fired at Durandal, or the Sabos. So there is a trade-off. You're going to lose shield HP, or shield the amount of HP on your shields. However, you're never going to be able to get penetrated by the Sabos or any other gun that has the ability to bypass shields. So there's a trade-off when you're doing this, right? So a couple different other things to look at, and this is one of those early game things, late game, mid game, whatever. We're just going to call it early game, because if you're building your ships when you first start out, some of the design things you want to remember. We're actually going to do a little bit of that right here. Some of the other design things you want to remember too is also, for example, SE Test 1. So we're going to jump off those guys, and we're going to bring the railgun up here. When you're building your ship, I built this ship just for some testing to do on railguns. Kind of throw everything out of whack in this game, especially when it comes to armor and HP. We'll just look at that specific railgun. This one is 321,751. 121,000 damage a second. This thing penetrates 10 blocks. Yeah, it's a badass. Well, this just happens to be a really ridiculous one that I picked up. I don't even know where I picked it up. I think I killed something, got it. But anyway, luckily for us, we don't run a lot into enemy NPCs with railguns. Thank God, because it would be a shit show. Because railguns really don't care about armor. They work against shields. They don't, even at 20 kilometers, they have raised. They're railgun, right? So they're literally, they're traveling at super high velocities. So there's not a lot of lag. You don't have to lead your targets much. There's nothing. Yeah, they're just simply OP. So thankfully, we don't run into NPCs like this. However, in a PvP server, you might run into other players that are going to be running these things, and you're going to have probably some difficulties. So when you're building your ship, and we're going to look at this real quick here. This was like I said, a test bed. Just doing some. Is that single blocks? The bigger the block, more HP. This does have a fair amount of HP. It's just a large piece of trinium hull. However, there's things attached to it. This is where the integrity field generators come into. And to a certain degree, you want to make sure that you always have overlapping blocks that touch as much as possible. And we're just going to throw that piece in there for what I'm going to show here. So yeah, I'm talking about the armor and all that kind of stuff. He does that block I just put on there could be a thruster. You just need to make sure you're overlapping your blocks all the time. And this kind of getting off a little bit on subject. The only reason my kids were playing today, and one of them started going, Dad, my ship just got blown to shit. Well, he didn't say shit. He's 9. But you know what I'm saying? He lost part of his ship. It was something that he designed himself. He was just having a little bit of trouble here. So what we're gonna do here is okay. Now let's jump in there. you can see what I'm talking about in the build mode. Come on. There we go. See the piece that's missing? Now, if that didn't have these overlapping pieces that covers multiple blocks, I would have lost all the stuff behind it. I would have lost the engine, I would have lost the hull, and whatever was past here. So when you're building or designing your ship, you know, not using the armor, using whatever, you want to make sure there's at least a few overlapping pieces. This of course is just beyond, you know, I'm showing you this. I mean, I'm making this up, but I'm making this up to make a point. Make sure you're overlapping things. By blowing that one block off like that, yeah, look what I would have lost all my engines on my ship, and all that kind of stuff. So it's something to remember when you're building. Use thrusters, use regular pieces of block, whatever, just to make sure that almost everything's got to be connected at least one or two different places, or 2 or 3 different places, so you don't have what I'm just showing you here, which is a simple catastrophe if you're in a fight and all of a sudden you lose all of your engines. So that's a real simple armor, shields, that kind of stuff, plus weapons that can penetrate shields and all that. Sorry, I kind of rattled on. There's a lot of information here, but hopefully this helps some of you guys early game in your ship designs. So with that said, guys, have a good night, and I'll see you hopefully for the new year.